Back, myself Iftkhar Singh, and we are going to start with our today's daily current affairs. So today we have 21st of May 2021. All right, and as you know that these lectures are basically for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination conducted by the UPSC. Okay, so we are also concerning about that examination, and for that purpose you must refer the two national newspapers like the Hindu or Indian Express. Both of these newspapers are equally good. You can refer any of these newspapers, and you can supplement your preparation with the help of these lectures. These lectures are uploaded on the YouTube on the day-to-day basis. All right. So let's begin with the lecture. Okay. So first news about the world largest iceberg. Okay, that is recently been named as A76. Okay. Now, what is iceberg first of all? See, iceberg is a large piece of freshwater ice, right? So whenever you have the freshwater ice, large piece of that which have been broken off from the glacier or any ice shelf, right? And that broken part of freshwater ice when started floating freely, right, in the open salty water, that is called iceberg. So one such iceberg that is known as A76, that is also the world largest iceberg, is currently been floating in the Weddell Sea. In the Weddell Sea, such giant slab of the bigger iceberg that have been recently been separated off from the front edge of Antarctica in the Antarctic island, right, which is the southernmost continent, right, where in terms of it is almost frozen and it is completely or almost inhabited island, right. So there is total frozen, so only the animals and the separate set of floral and faunal compositions are there, right. So in that sense it is not habitable, right, for the humans purpose. Okay, now this is currently the largest iceberg that is being currently floating on the basically in the Weddell Sea. So this recently been named as A76 by the scientists because it has been recently been spotted, right, such a large iceberg, right, which is having the span of around 175 kilometers length and 25 kilometers wide. So you could think of around 4,320 square kilometers of the surface area. That is roughly around 1,668 square miles of area. That is a very big, that is almost bigger than the Spanish island of Majorca. All right. Now, when we compare about the Weddell Sea, right, the Weddell Sea where it is located to the nearby or to the adjacent to your Antarctica. So Weddell Sea is basically a part of your Southern Ocean, right, and it contains basically the Weddell Gyre. So its land boundary is basically defined by the bay that is from the coast of the Antarctic Peninsula. So the Weddell Sea is nothing but the deep embayment of the Antarctic coastline that is basically formed at the southernmost tip of Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Now, recently the European Space Agency, have been declared that such a big iceberg has been floating in the Weddell Sea. Okay. Now, if you compare that, right, with the Spain's popular island that is Majorca, right, which is even smaller than this, right, that is around 3,640 square kilometers of that area. And if you compare with the US Rhode Island, right, which is having the landmass of just 2,678 square kilometer, so you can think of it is much bigger than these two, right. And the Rhode Island that we are talking about is basically a state in New England, right, which is known for sandy shores and the seaside colonial towns, right. uh, this enormity of A76 that we are talking about, that has been recently been broken away from the Antarctica Rhone ice shelf, right, which has been floating in the Weddell Sea, right, and it is the largest one to the second one, right. The first previous known, the largest one was A23A, that was having the surface area of 3,380 square kilometers, but now this has crossed or this has surpassed this in terms of the size also, So A76 now become the world largest floating iceberg in the Weddell Sea, right? When we call about, you know, this in terms of the iceberg, which is basically currently being, explained in terms of the environmental changes, the environmental degradation, the increasing of the temperature, the average increasing the temperature, right? That is the main cause behind such breakup. Okay, so here you could see this A76 iceberg, which is having the surface area of 4,320 square kilometer. This is 175 kilometers long. You could think of 25 kilometers wide. So here the largest size of this iceberg is being floating in the Weddell Sea. Okay, and it is basically a shelf that we are talking about. It is a basically Antarctic shelf that is basically bordering your Weddell Sea. All right. Next we are talking about the you know, rhymocosys, right? So what is this mucormycosis? What is this mucormycosis? The mucormycosis is basically a fungal disease. It is a fungal infection. Okay, so this mucormycosis is basically the cases that have been increasing in India. Okay, specifically the patients who have been recently been cured from the COVID-19 complications. So recently the union government has asked all the states to declare the mucormycosis, right, as the epidemic under Epidemic Disease Act 1897. Okay, so obviously this declaring of this mucormycosis, which is also known as the fungal infection or the fungal disease, right, is it's of great importance, because to contain and to control such fungal disease is also greater importance, specifically at the time when the pandemic called the COVID-19 is basically going on. And we have already stressed medical facilities in our country for that purpose. All right, so let us understand the more about the mucormycosis. What is this mucormycosis? So mucormycosis is a basically serious but a rare fungal infection disease. Okay, it is caused by the group of mold that is called the mucormycetes. These are called the mold or group of mold. These fungi basically lives throughout the environment, particularly the soil or in the decaying organic matters like leaves, compost piles, or even rotten wood also. So such such molds can be found even in your locality also. And people get generally this mucormycosis by coming into the contact with fungal spores. Okay, in the environment that is generally been found. For example, you may have the lungs form of the infection that can occur because of the breath that in the spores. Okay, so that usually occur in the people who have some sort of health problems and who generally take the medicines, right? And their immune system is somewhat weak to fight the germs and the sicknesses, right? So something that is occurring now. As I told you that mucormycetes, which is basically the mold or group of mold or group of fungi that cause basically this mucormycosis, are present throughout the environment, the soil or whatever, in the decaying environment. Okay, now they are most commonly found in the soil than in the air. Okay, and specifically in the summer or in the winter or in the spring, right? And most people basically comes in the contact of these microscopic fungal spores every day, right? So it is almost impossible to completely avoid to coming into the contact with such mycormycetes, right? So but you must understand that these fungi are not harmful to most of the people, but the people who are having the weakened immune system, they are most susceptible to such fungal or the black fungus disease. Now this mycosis is basically having the different types. So first of all, the first type is basically called the rhinocerebral, that is also known as sinus related or the brain related. Okay, so that is the first type, that is basically infection in your sinus that can spread even to your brain also. So this form of mycormycosis is basically most common in the people that is having uncontrolled diabetic problems, right, or having some sort of a kidney transplant. Second type of mycormycosis is basically also known as the pulmonary means the lung related, right? So such type of mycorrhizasis, right, is the most common type of, the disease that is basically occurring with the people that is having history of cancer or some sort of a organ transplant or stem cell transplant, etc. Third type of mycorrhizasis is basically the gastrointestinal means that is something related to your intestine, that is most common among the young children's than in the adults, specifically the premature and the low birth babies or infants that is having less than 1 month of the age, right? So who had antibodies, surgery, or some sort of medications that lowers the body's ability to fight the germs and the sicknesses. All right. The fourth type is basically the cutaneous. The cutaneous means the skin related. Okay, that is, occurs after, fungi enters into your body through some sort of a break in your skin, right? For example, after surgery, right, a burn or any other type of skin trauma. Okay, so such type of most common form of the mucormycosis are basically found, in those people who have some sort of a weakened immune system. And the fifth and last type is basically called the disseminated mucormycosis, that is occurring in the infections, right, through the bloodstream to affect another part of the body, right? That is disseminated part, right? So infection spread through the bloodstream, and infection is most commonly affect the brain, right? And then it can also affect other organs like spleen, heart, or even skin also. So these are five major kinds of the mucormycosis that is basically found throughout the world. All right. Now let us understand some of the symptoms also, because it has already been declared epidemic by various states. Now central government is basically, asking the state government to declare it as epidemic. So let us understand some more about the mucormycosis. So let us understand the symptoms also. What are the symptoms, right? So that you could also aware. So first let us understand the symptoms of this rhinocerebral, cerebral or the sinus or brain related mycorrhizasis, right? So here you would have one-sided, the facial swelling with there, right? So in the face, one-sided, there will be a swelling in the sinus and the brain, or you may feel the headache, continuous headache, or you may have the nasal or the sinus congestion, or you may have some sort of a black lessons on your nasal bridge or upper part of your mouth, right? You may have the fevers also. So that is the common symptom for this, the rhinocerebral. And what is the symptom for this pulmonary? For the pulmonary, the mycorrhizasis, the symptoms are basically the fever, cough, chest pain, shortness of the breath, etc. And right. And for cutaneous, what are the symptoms for the cutaneous? Or for the skin related, you may have the symptoms like, the blisters or ulcers, right? The infected person may also turn black, right? Other symptoms like you may have also pain, warmth, excessive redness, or swelling around your mouth. And for gastrointestinal, you may have, problems like abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, the gastrointestinal bleeding, and etc. And for the last, that is disseminated, right? For that purpose, you may have, difficulty to know that what are the symptoms which are related to mycosis. So in that, the brain could develop the mental status, or you may also, turn it into the vegetative state or in the coma state also, right? So you must understand that the people, right, which are mostly affected because of this mucormycosis, right? These are the people which are having some sort of a history related, or some sort of a, the medical related problems, right? You have, for example, cancer, diabetic, right? Those peoples are basically the most infected or most susceptible to the mucormycosis disease, which is also known as the black fungus, or the disease which is caused by the mold, which we call them the mucormytes, right? So here what we are talking about is that such type of disease is very, very uh, rare, but it is also very serious. So we should not take it as lightly. As soon as you found that symptoms, you should immediately go to the doctor to check whether any such things are not causing the further complications. Okay. So the Rajasthan, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu have already declared is an epidemic, right? And mucormycosis, which is also known as the black fungus, is basically complications which is because caused of the fungal infection. Okay. Now it caused when you have in the contact with the fungal spores in the environment, right? So if you come in the contact, you may feel that this type of disease is basically have infected your body also, right? And that is basically the most people who are basically recovering from the COVID-19 complications, they are the most susceptible in this process. All right, so I've already explained you the mucormycosis. It has been explained here also. So you could see it's an aggressive fungal infection that causes various vital organs that I've already told you, right? It can also damage to your ear, nose, throat, and mouth also. And according to the Center for Disease Control and the Prevalence, US, causes a serious but a rare disease, right? In India, it is having the prevalence of around 0.14 cases per 1,000 individuals. And the underlying causes is basically the diabetes, which is the most common underlying causes. Okay, and the second most important is indiscriminate use of the high dose of steroid that we basically provide to the patients who are recovering from the COVID-19 infections. And the cure is basically some sort of antifungal disease that is called amphotericin, right? B, which is also most important drug for the treatment of mucormycosis. Okay. Next, the airborne transmission of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now, until now, what we had know that the SARS-CoV-2 virus or novel coronavirus can be spread up to the 6 meters or up to the 6 feet of the distance. So if we could maintain a distance up to the 2 gauge or 6 feet, we would be safer. But now the scientists have given a warning that the infected people can basically transmit that virus up to 10 meters. So that means now the aerosols or the suspended solids, aerosols means suspended solids, can be there in the basically in the airborne, and that can be infecting the person up to 10 meters away. So that is a very very serious, because in the closed office environment, right, where you have hardly 10 meters distance between your employees and your the schools, colleges, right? It's a very very serious matter when such type of infection may again rise, right? So that warning basically came right after the principal scientific advisor basically have also advised to that regard. And this airborne infection or the transmission through the aerosol can specifically infect the people up to 10 meters away. So for that purpose, you must also understand and you should also be aware about it. And virus spread predominantly through the large droplets, that is suspended form, when the person basically comes out in terms of the talking, sneezing, or the coughing, right? But previously we thought the distance is 6 feet or the 2 meters is basically sufficient, but now even up to 10 meters it can easily transmit through the suspended form or the solid suspended form in the form of your aerosols, right? That is the most important thing, right? So over the months, scientists have been in the clue that why this increasing number of the cases of COVID cases is basically there. It is basically in the form of evidence this virus is traveling through the aerosols as well. And the aerosols are basically the small solid particles which remain suspended in the air for the longer period of the time. And since they can be mobile also along with the wind, so it can transmit, it can basically move up to the 10 meters, and that can infect the people in the vicinity in that manner, right? So it is basically the huge cause of concern for all of us only. So here you could see the rise and fall of the number of cases for the corona. So what we could see that not every state is having the rising of the cases. Some states are having the average cases decreasing. Some states are having the average cases increasing, or some cases are basically in between them. For example, you could see this graph. The Tamil Nadu is one such state where the cases or average cases are increasing. So here the average cases are increasing in Andhra, Arunachal Pradesh, Lakshadweep, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Odisha, Pondicherry, Sikkim, Tamil Nadu, and Tripura. This we are talking about the data from 1st April to May 19. Another state where average number of cases are decreasing, right? For example, you could see here the green line, the classic example is Chhattisgarh, right? First, initially the cases increases, it reaches to the peak, and now it is declining trend. So other states which is also facing, or which is also observing similar trend of declining, that is Andaman Nicobar Islands, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Chandigarh, Delhi, Goa, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Telangana, UP and Uttarakhand. And where the average cases are middling, you could see here, right? The West Bengal is a classic example, still not yet reached the peak, still middling. The Assam, Ladakh, West Bengal are the classic example for that. Okay, next is the corpse flower, right? So here you must understand the people are basically specifically in the San Francisco Bay Area in the USA have been quite for the purpose of this view of this corpse flower, right, which is basically the rare flower which is also native to the rainforest of Sumatra Islands in the Indonesia. Okay, now why we call this rare plant or the rare flowering plant is also called as the Amorphous titanium, right? So that is quite means that is basically very giant, right? And it is because of its appearance that is also known as the corpus flower. Now what we call about this, the Amorphophallus titanium, that is basically is a flowering plant that is having the largest unbranched inflorescence in the world. Largest unbranched. You could understand any plant having almost branches, but it is unbranched. It is the largest unbranched inflorescence. What is inflorescence? I'll come to that. Okay, so it is the largest unbranched inflorescence in the world, and we call it is the largest inflorescence because, right, it is unbranched and it is endemic to the Sumatra. So what is this inflorescence? Inflorescence means it's a group or the cluster of the flowers, right, that has been arranged on the stem that is composed of the main branch. It is got, right, and it is having some sort of a complicated arrangement of these branches, right, that looks like that is almost unbranched, and morphologically it is the modified part of shoot of the seed plant where the flowers are basically formed. So it is basically due to its appearance what we call as them the largest unbranched inflorescence plant, right? So here in about a decade the corpus flower can grow up to the height of 10 feet. So you could understand that flower height 10 feet sorry, right? And it is also having the deep red sorry, it is also having the deep red skirt like petal. What is petal? The petal, when we call, is basically also called the modified leaves that surrounding some sort of a reproductive part of your flower. So they are often brightly colored or unusually shaped to attract the pollinators. So together the all of the petals of the flower are also called corolla. Okay, so this flower or this corpus flower will have the deep red skirt petal, and it's also having the yellow rod like spadix. What is spadix? The spadix are basically a type of spike inflorescence that is having the small flower borne on the fleshy stem. Okay, now this corpus flower is also most important because it is also the comb or the fleshy underground plant, or that is having some sort of underground part, or that is also called the stem, that is basically fleshy and that acts as a storage, right, which can store some sort of a vital foods, minerals, water, etc. for the energy purpose. And you could understand that it can also have the weight of around 100 kgs. So that is very very high. Okay, now this corpus flower is known for the one of the world largest unbranched inflorescence, right? The cluster of the flowers that we have already explained you about the influence, right? The average corpus flower have been lifespan of around 3 to 4 decades. 3 to 4 decades, that is 30 to 40 years, right? All right. So here you could see this is the flower that we are talking about, right? All right. Next, the Paracel Islands. The Paracel Islands are basically located in the South China Sea. They are the disputed islands. So what is happening recently? The US warship called USS Curtis Wilbur, right, have been recently entered into the South China Sea nearby your Paracel Islands. These are disputed islands between China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. All are having their jurisdictions on the area which is lying nearby your Paracel Island. And recently, the Joe Biden, who is the president of USA, have said that the freedom of navigation is one of the most important international right, and we should also defend. The US should defend for that purpose. And just after that, the USS Curtis Wilbur, which is a US warship, have entered the area which is illegally being, occupied by the China in the South China Sea and calling it as a Chinese territory, right? So here the US have denied that it has not entered into any sort of area which is lying exclusive in the jurisdiction of China. So this Paracel archipelago is a collection of 130 islands and the coral reefs. Okay, and it is located in the South China Sea and it is almost equidistant from the China and the Vietnam. Both are having loggerheads specifically for the purpose of the controlling and reclaiming of these islands from the ocean, right? So the China, Taiwan, and Vietnam, they are reinforcing their claims over the territory, right? And they are engaging into some sort of a construction activities, the reclaiming activities, building the tourism infrastructure, the administrative buildings over there, and the countries are also having the military presence over there to reinforce their claim over there. Okay, now what we talk about the South China Sea. What is South China Sea? South China Sea is basically a marginal sea in the Western Pacific Ocean. Okay, now it is bounded in the north by the shores of South China, in the west by the Indo-Chinese Peninsula, and in the east by the islands of Taiwan. Okay, regarding this Paracel Island that we are talking about, as I told you that these Paracel Islands are also known as the Jisha Island. The Jisha Islands, it has been named by the China, right? And they are also known as the Huang Sa Archipelago. The Huang Sa Archipelago, right? So it is a disputed archipelago in the South China Sea, right? You must understand. And they are having around 130 small coral islands and the reefs over there. Okay. So here we are talking about this Paracel Islands, which are disputed in the South China Sea. The Spratly Islands are also disputed, right, in the South China Sea. And China is basically having the territorial extensions, specifically in the South China Sea, by having this line that is called the 9-dash line. The 9-dash line is basically the line where the China enforces sovereignty in the South China Sea. That is illegal as per the international instruments. All right. Next, the prepaid payment instruments. Right. So here, what is happening is that, right, the government is basically, or Reserve Bank of India is permitting, some sort of a other liberal instruments or some sort of other liberal measures, specifically for those wallets that we generally use. For example, Amazon Pay, Ola Money, MobiKwik, Phone Pay, etc. We are using for the payment purpose, right? So here the Reserve Bank of India is permitting, right, that one could also use the ATM or point of sale terminal, right, for the purpose of the withdrawal of the money from such wallets also. Now you could withdraw the money even if the money is located, money is there in the Amazon Pay or Ola Money or MobiKwik or whatever it may be, the Phone Pay. You could withdraw the money just like a normal withdrawal process through the ATMs or the point of sale terminal. So here the Reserve Bank of India through the notification have permitted the withdrawal of the cash from such wallets or such online wallets, that is the per transaction that is limit of around 2000 rupees. So you cannot withdraw the money more than 2000 rupees per transaction, and there is a maximum limit also, that is 10,000 per month. That means you will not be permitted to withdraw the money from such online wallets by more than 10,000 rupees per month. And all non-bank payment prepaid instruments can provide this service, but they have to for that purpose some sort of a card or the wallet pin is also needed, right? And such type of prepaid payment instruments and such type of those authorizing those them, the withdrawal will also be providing such type of card and wallet pin for the purpose of the withdrawal of the money. Now Let us understand briefly about the prepaid payment instruments. The prepaid payment instruments basically help to facilitate the purchase of the goods and services. You might have also done that one, but just for the understanding, just for your making you understand about this concept. The prepaid payment instruments are basically, helping you to facilitate the purchase of goods and services. You might be using, the phone pay or MobiWik or whatever, the Ola money, whatever, for the purchasing of these goods and services, for even financial services, for remittance purpose, for fund transfer. You would be transferring fund to your family members also, right? And some of the examples you could see that you have the Paytm, GPay or Google Pay, right? Gift cards also there, debit and credit cards which are also there. Now let us understand there are three types of the prepaid payment instruments. Now we are talking just three types. There are three types. First of all, that is called closed prepaid payment instrument. This is the first type, right? Here in this closed type of prepaid payment instrument, you cannot withdraw the cash from such kind of instruments, right? So these prepaid payment instruments, that is also called closed one, that help in facilitating the purchase of goods and services, right? And the issuance and the operation of such instruments are not classified as a payment system, right? And that do not require the approval and authorization from the Reserve Bank of India. Also, second type of the prepaid payment instruments are also known as the semi-closed, PPI. In the semi-closed PPI, again, it do not allow you to make the cash withdrawal, irrespective of whatever, whether they have been issued by the banks or non-banking institutions. All right. And for instance, you might be using also, for example, SDFC's bank, the Pays app, right? The State Banks of India's, the Yono app, right? Again, they are approved by the central bank and non-banking, your prepaid payment instruments, right? Like you have the Paytm or GPay, right, which are authorized by the RBI for the purchase of goods and services, right? They are also used for the purpose of financial services, payments, money transfers, remittance, and etc. Okay, now the third type is basically your called the open, the prepaid payment instrument. Now this is most important. It is most commonly used, the prepaid payment instruments, that are also called the debit and the credit cards, right? So you can make a withdrawal of the cases from such open, prepaid payment instruments, right? But you must be cautious about while withdrawing the cash from the credit card, because by doing so, you will be charged very high interest rate from the day of cash withdrawal. Okay, so such the prepaid payment instruments are issued by the banks, right? And they can be used at the merchant for the purchase of goods and services, including your financial services, remittance facilities, or whatever you may have. Okay, so cash withdrawals at the ATMs, point of the sale terminals, business correspondents are permitted through such type of open, prepaid payment instruments. All right. So these are some of the basics about the prepaid payment instruments. Let's move further. Till date, the Reserve Bank of India has permitted 37 prepaid payment instruments that we are talking just now. The maximum 2 lakh rupees limit that have been capped for various wallet, right? Once you complete your full KYC norm, you cannot keep more than 2 lakhs rupees in your wallet, right? And the RBI also asks all the payment instruments providers to ensure that interoperability by 31st of the March next year. So that will allow the ease for the customers to basically, to use that type of prepaid payment instruments. All right. Next, INS Rajput. INS Rajput was basically a destroyer that belongs to the Indian Navy. It was the first destroyer, right? It has been recently decommissioned on 21st of May 2021 at the naval dockyard in the Vishakhapatnam, right? Now, the INS Rajput was basically a Cushion class destroyer that has been built by the USSR, and that was commissioned on the 4th May 1980. So it was originally the Cushion class destroyer that was built in the USSR, but it has been given to the India for the purpose of right, for the purpose of the naval use. Now it has been renamed as INS Rajput. Okay, so INS Rajput was constructed as in the 61st, the Kamienka shipyard in basically Ukraine. All right, now the under original name that was known as the Nedezi. Nedezi means the hope, and it has been renamed as INS Rajput. It has been, launched on the waters, that is on 17th September 1977, and it was commissioned with the Indian Navy as INS Rajput on the 4th May 1980 at the Poti, Georgia by Indra Kumar Gujral. All right, so it is basically the INS Rajput, which is the India's first destroyer which are commissioned with Indian Navy. Okay, next we are talking about the plasma. What is plasma? The scientists from Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, which is an autonomous institute under Departments of Science and Technology, has recently developed a theory that understood in the form of the plasma. Right? So the theory says that the sun and earth interaction, that is in the form of you know uh, your basically the solar rays, or the solar, the winds, that is basically when comes in the contact with the earth magnetism or magnetosphere, right? That area is basically having some sort of effect on the earth magnetic field, right? So that is controlled by the earth magnetic field. So that interaction is basically understood in the sense of the earth magnetic field. This new theory, which is basically opened up the new opportunities for unlocking the mystery related to the iron hole structures, right, which is basically the localized plasma region where the iron density is lower than the surrounding plasma. Now, let us understand what is this magnetosphere and why we are concerning about this theory that is basically showing some sort of a relationship between the sun and earth interactions that is happening in the magnetosphere, right? So magnetosphere is a region of the space that is surrounding the earth, right, where some sort of a dominant magnetic field is the magnetic field of earth rather than the magnetic field of interplanetary space. So the magnetosphere is formed by the interaction of the solar wind with the earth magnetic field. So that is what we are concerning about, the sun and earth interaction, because here the solar wind interacted with the earth magnetic field, and that is basically unlocking various theories about the plasma, right? So here the scientists basically have completely ruled out for the purpose of this Bernstein green crystal wave, right? Where the scientists have ruled out that the upper limit in terms of the temperature ratio between ions and the electrons, right, is necessary for the purpose of generation of the special kinds of waves that is called the Bernstein green crystal waves, right? So what is this Bernstein crystal waves, right? These are the special type of waves, right? Or they are also known as the nonlinear electrostatic waves that propagate in an unmagnetized collisionless plasma. So they are nonlinear solutions to the equation that is known as the Blasov-Poisson's equation, right? You don't have to understand, that is the theory in the physics. So that Bernstein green crystal waves are basically solutions to the Blasov-Poisson's equation in plasma physics, right? It has been named after the physicist, right, that is being used as a Martin D. Crystal. Okay, now it solved the mysteries which is related to such type of interactions. Now when we talk about when we talk about this plasma, the plasma is basically one of the four fundamental states of matter, right? That is being systematically studied by Irving Langmuir in 1920s way back. Okay, now it consists of a gases of the ions, atoms or molecules, right, which have one or more, or the orbitals which are the orbital electrons which are stripped, and they are free electrons. So you could see that the plasma are artificially generated by heating the neutral gas, which is subjected to the strong electromagnetic field in the sun and earth magnetic the interaction, where the presence of these free charge particles makes the plasma, that is electrically conducive within the dynamics of individual particles in the macroscopic plasma motion, governed by the collective electromagnetic field that is between earth and the sun, and it is very sensitive to the external applied field in that sense. All right, so here the scientists revealed that the electrons are not the part of this iron hole dynamics that also play a very vital role in this formation. So this new theory is developed by the Indian Institute of your geomagnetism shed the lights on the nature of the greatest mystery that causes the phenomena that is called plasma transport or the heating of the plasma. Just I was telling you about that one, the heating of the plasma or the plasma transport, that I told you that the plasma can be artificially generated by heating a neutral gas or subjecting it to the strong electromagnetic field. So in that sense, what will happen? The presence of the free charge particles makes a plasma which is electrically conducive with the dynamics of individual particles and the macroscopic plasma motion governed by the collective electromagnetic fields, and that are very very sensitive to the applied field also. So the plasma, which is the fourth state of matter after solid, liquid, and the gas that we are talking about in this sense. So the state of matter that we have studied, that there are three state of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. But there are four type of matter that is called also plasma. And then next, export of the buffalo meat. Now, the India is also the one of the countries where the buffalo meat is exported. Okay, so Agriculture and Processed Food Export Development Authority, or the APIDA, which is the Apex Export Authority with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, have said to the world community, to the international organizations, that the Indian exporters are basically, adhering to the highest level of quality with respect to the food safety and the environmental management systems with respect to the buffalo meat. So here, the Indian buffalo meat, exporters, right, which are, some of the bigger conglomerates, right, business persons are basically following the highest level of quality, and these buffalo meat from India is basically exported to the countries like Hong Kong, Vietnam, Malaysia, Egypt, Indonesia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Philippines, and UAE. And this buffalo meat is basically prepared and exported in accordance to this OIE guidelines. I'll come to that. What is this OIE guideline? And the Indian buffalo meat is safe, right, and risk-free in that sense. So, what is this OIE guidelines? Now, first, let us understand the brief background about why this OIE guidelines related to the animals, right, related to the quality, food safety, and environmental management is so important. So, in the current trend of the globalization, you must understand that the animal health measures have increasing importance to facilitate, the safe international trade of animals and the animal products, right? You must also avoid, along with that, the unnecessary impediments to the trade, right? So, in the light of this, an agreement on the applications of the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, that is also known as the SPS measures, that is sanitary and phytosanitary measures, encourages the members of the World Trade Organization to base their sanitary measures on the international standards that we are talking, as per the international guidelines, recommendations, wherever they exist. So this OIE is the WTO reference organization for standards. Okay, I'll again repeat. This OIE is WTO reference organization for the standards which are related to the animal health and zoonosis. Here, the OIE, which is the organization, publishes the two codes that we are concerning. First code is related to the terrestrial and aquatic. Terrestrial means those animals which reside on the land. Terrestrial means land. Aquatic means those animals or those faunal, right, which are resides in the water. That is aquatic. And the second manual is basically, that is basically some sort of a, the other animals which are not being included over there. So there are the two manuals or two codes which basically prescribe that type of, related measurements in that phase. So there are several interventions which are led by the government of India to ensure that the livestock remains disease free. For example, the Indian government have launched in 2019 the National Animal Disease Control Program. Under this, the foot and mouth disease as well as the brucellosis, right, would be eradicated from India, right, by 2025 and 2030 respectively, under the flagship program called, the National Animal Disease Control Program that was launched in 2019. 19. So this foot and the mouth disease that we are talking about is a highly contagious virus disease. It's a virus disease of the animals. Okay, it is the most serious livestock disease that is found in the animals, and it affects the cloven, right? Cloven and hoofed animals, right? Those have some sort of a divided hoofs, like you might have seen, just you look at the buffalo or camels, you might have seen that they have the cloven hoofed animals or the divided hoofs, like you have the cattle, buffalo, camels, sheep, goats, deer, pigs that are having the divided hoofs. And so this foot and mouth is basically infect those animals. And what about this brucellosis? The brucellosis again is highly contagious zoonosis, right? It is caused by the ingestion of the unpasteurized milk or undercooked milk from the infected animals, right? And that may happen because of closer contacts with their secretions also. So it causes basically some sort of a fever, right? And infection basically spread from animals to the people also, mostly by this unpasteurized dairy products. So that is the reason some of the Western countries are basically enforcing this OIE, the safeguards in order to ensure that such type of disease should not spread to the other countries in that sense, right? So this international standards with respect to the OIE, WHO, World Health Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization, have been issued, right, guidelines with regard to, right, some sort of a food packaging, right, with respect to those meat. Okay. Next, the World Bee Day. As you know that every year the World Bee Day is celebrated. So on the occasion of the World Bee Day, the Union Agriculture Minister have launched the Regional Honey Quality Testing Laboratory. This Regional Honey Quality Testing Laboratory is launched at the Pusa Center of the Indian Agricultural Research Institute in New Delhi. The main purpose of setting up this Regional Honey Quality Testing Laboratory is to set up, the better, the honey testing in our country, right? So here the quality testing is more important, right, with respect to the National Beekeeping Honey Mission. So here the keeping in the view of importance of the beekeeping, right, as a part of integrated farming system in our country, the government has already approved this National Beekeeping and Honey Mission for that purpose for 3 years. That has been starting from 2020-21 to 2022-23. So that National Beekeeping and Honey Mission is basically only for 3 years, unless it has been extended further. So this mission was announced as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. This National Beekeeping and Honey Mission aims at overall promotion and the development of the scientific beekeeping in our country to achieve, the goal of, or sorry, to achieve the goal of the sweet revolution, right? That sweet revolution is basically associated with the beekeeping and honey mission, right? So here, this sweet revolution is being implemented by the National Bee Board, right? That has been concerning about the beekeeping activity. So main objective of this National Beekeeping and Honey Mission is to promote the holistic growth of the beekeeping industries for income, for employment generations, right? To enhance the agriculture, horticulture production, to develop infrastructure facilities, to setting up of, the integrated beekeeping, activities, right? Honey testing labs, bee disease diagnostic labs, the customizing centers, right? Many such activities will be conducted under this mission. So here the 300 crores have been approved for overall promotion of this National Beekeeping and Honey Mission, for the scientific beekeeping and achieving the target of the sweet revolution for that purpose. And 500 crores have been allocated for this by the center under Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign for that purpose. And the main purpose is to create a world-class state-of-art honey testing lab, which is already been established at the National Dairy Development Board, that is being located in the Anand in Gujarat, with the help of 5 crore rupees. All right. So here every year the World Bee Day is celebrated on 20th May, and under this, to celebrate this World Bee Day, the Union Agriculture Minister have already been established the Regional Honey Quality Testing Laboratory, at the Pusa Center of the Indian Agriculture Research Institute. All right. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for those who attended this session. We'll again meet tomorrow. Please be safe, be at home, right? Take care of yourself. Thank you very much. We'll meet again tomorrow.